You are at your local library, looking for something new to satiate your hungry mind. And you find yourself in the children's section, surrounded by hundreds and hundreds of colorful, thin little paperbacks. You turn a corner into an alcove, what is usually a colorful floral carpet and a series of tables with games and iPads and books for the littlest of the kiddos to enjoy. What you find instead is a figure, a tall husk of a man, clothed in rags of gray and black, bones on twine and chains dripping from his form. And on his head, or more, where his head should be, is a skull of some vast great deer, some god in the forest. He does not look at you. Maybe he can't. Maybe there are no eyes in those hollow sockets. He's gesturing, quite in an animated fashion, and you realize he is telling a story. And you look down, and you see that surrounding him are children, sitting there cross-legged, eagerly hanging on to every word. They are so behaved, so enthralled. You've never seen children act this way. In retrospect, you should have run. You should have interrupted this tale. You should have called the police. You should have talked to the front desk, but you didn't. You're not sure what came over you. But in that shadowy corner, while rain beat outside, thin gray light filtering through the windows, you stopped. And just listen.
Just north of Knowwhere, just out of reach, a world nigh identical to your own. Look up, see the stars as your ancestors did, aeons and aeons ago. Not as vast, mighty husks of metal and stone, churning hellfire in the aether sea of eternal nothing, but as unknowable pinpricks of something a-blooming in the vast black fabric. Step into the grey, the shadows within closets, the men who walk in waking dreams, the sailors' tales of oceans deep, eyes as mammoth as isles, creatures cryptid twitching in the staticky shades on forested mountain trails untraveled. Return, surrender the charade, knowing nothing but the senseless sense. For why would the world and her workings feign fathomable, reality and its intricacies reachable? Fools! False prophets promise a physic so clear, cohere, yet real reality resides in the incomprehensible simplicity Imagine a world of wondrous, terrible, undefined mystery, the promise of new worlds, new monsters, new physic to be found. A world where the sky is a veil, and beyond is as bewildering, opaque, unfathomed, and eldritch as the fourth dimension to your modern mind. The sky is a veil. The veil is reality. Reality is tattered and torn. Afraid, I'm afraid. And that is where we get our stars. Cracks in the black ceiling. And that is where we get our magics. Breaks in our physic. Tremors, the tempo of abnormality the beat's shadows flicker to. Arcane collections of deviations away from as it should be, where will wizards, magicians, witches, and men. Follow me, just beyond the veil, just past fathoming, just north of Knowwhere.
That was an incredible introduction by the articulator. Thank you, sir. Ladies and gents, and those who know better, how's about a round of applause? Okay, now, down to business. Just north of Knowwhere is a world-building project I have taken up in preparation for the book I'm currently writing. The Best Damn Nobody. Killer title, I know. It's hopefully not going to, peak there. To give you a peek into what that book will entail, I have for you 2 words. Cowboy wizards. Or should it be wizard cowboys? Which would come first? Anyway, to put it in the most concise but least diluted form, The Best Damn Nobody is going to merge Western and fantasy in the same way that Cowboy Bebop did with sci-fi and fantasy. I hope. Also, shout out to Cowboy Bebop. Their film, Knocking on Heaven's Door, is amazing, incredible, super cool, and everything I dream of being able to accomplish as a creator. Gods, I hope. Ojalá. I highly recommend checking it out. Or don't. I won't make you. I can, but I won't. Check under mattress anyway. The world-building format/method I'm using is what I call bookends, which is where I start from both ends. I have a few ideas of where I want my world to end up and how I want my world to begin, and I work inwards. Oh, I can't say that. I converge from those 2 points to meet in the middle. To give example, I know I want the internet to exist in the present day of my book, but I know that I want it to be in its infancy, resembling 90s retro. Also, I also have what type of firearms, vehicles, city structures, and global socio-political dynamics that I want to be extant in the present day when my book is taking place. On the opposite end of all that, on the other bookend, the one that exists to define the past of my world instead of defining its present, is this world-building project, just north of Knowwhere. Here, I will discuss and explore the building blocks of my world, and then work upwards from there. I will establish my magic system, and then begin exploring how the introduction of magic to the Earth would have irreversibly changed history, ecology, and everything else. This will mostly work in 2 ways. Either we will have an episode exploring a period of time, starting with Neolithic humans, and then moving onward, and explore how magic and previous alterations, things that magic had changed in the previous episode and so on, how these previous alterations in magic would further change that part of history. Or, this is the second type of episode, we will introduce some magical phenomena. These include episodes exploring a spell/glitch, a creature/monster, and others. that I can't think of right now. Now, with all that structure that I will definitely fail to follow, and introductions out of the way, let's dive in. Today's topic, the font of magic, or how I want magic and my world to feel. This feeling I feel is first articulated by the articulator in his little story of his little world. I wanted to capture a cloudy feeling of isolation, that sort of silence you get when you travel to a rural, and I mean really rural, like all gravel roads, no real hospital for miles and miles and miles and miles. Most folks still work at a coal mine, kids go missing in the forests or caves or the cliffside and are never found, and that's just normal. That kind of rural. Like Appalachia or Alaska, minus Anchorage. That feeling of quite real, lizard brain prickling horror, that sense that you aren't getting out. Escape is impossible, futile. That feeling that I find is found within the frames and pages of both the Blair Witch Project and Grapes of Wrath. I wanted the sky to feel eldritch, unknowable. I wanted to erase our modern scientific understanding of our place in the cosmos and replace it with those feelings: isolation, futility, claustrophobia. That this is all we get. That the sky is a dome, a cage, a barrier, a veil. And then I wanted to put cracks in the glass, gaps in that cage, and call it magic. Stars, I wanted gravity to be a prison, and magic to be the exception. Glitches, if you will. Or as said in my book, trimmers. The beat shadows flicker to, the cracks and tears in the fabric of reality. The sky and reality, celestiality and magic are inexplicably tied, but not in the traditional sense. Think of it this way. The world usually behaves, especially when it is being observed. But sometimes there are glitches, exploits, that people can get good at using. And voila! Magic! Now, if you were to go past the sky, through a star or something, beyond the veil, you would get to an area where nothing behaves as it should, where everything is glitchy, always. This eldritch fourth dimension is really bleeding onto Earth in the form of magic, trimmers, glitches. This bleeding is shown on the barrier that separates these two planes as stars. Still with me? Good. I wanted my magic to behave just like an exploit would in a video game. That being that it is merely just breaking of a rule. Which brings me to my rules of magic. Rule number 1. Magic cannot think for itself. You can't have a spell that just heals you, no matter the injury. A spell that would praise your body and then meticulously piece you back together. However, you can have a spell that stimulates your body's natural growth system, or even a spell specifically designed to repair, let's say, kidneys. Rule number 2. Magic has to, usually, almost always, be so niche and complex that no one can accidentally stumble onto it. This rule needs a bit of clarification. A, all of these rules have their exceptions. This rule is mostly to create sects of magic users. Magic is hard, within the exception of 1 or 2 spells, and a lifetime of training should, in my books, in my world, separate a non-magical from a magical person. B, I feel that the need to clear, these are my clarifications again. B, I feel the need to clarify that a lot of spells are discovered by just stumbling onto them, which is a direct contradiction of the rule, I know. But finding a tear in reality is a once in a many lifetimes moment. It's extremely rare. The way that this rule is supposed to work is to keep me from making magic too uncomplex. Keeping with the idea of glitches, is it Elder Scrolls Skyrim? That glitch of holding a plate to a wall to teleport through it is a bad spell in this context. It breaks the rule, both because it doesn't look cool, using a plate to clip through a wall, and because billions of people would have walked into walls carrying plates come present day. If you look at history, people are dumbasses. If a spell were that easy to come across and learn and master, it wouldn't be so widespread that we'd have a whole society built around it. We'd have a society built around everyone being able to no-clip using plates just about as much as we have society now built around the infrastructure of automobiles. That being said, I do foresee some spells being that easy to the point where everyone, layman, everyone over the age of 16 uses that spell, but they will be that simple intentionally, and I will world build around that. I will create that infrastructure, incorporating the change a mass learned skill would impart into this world. Rule number 3. This pretty much goes with rule 2. Almost. Nothing is easy. In the context of magic. No magic is easy. This is pretty much restated for redundancy. This rule is here is here for the same reasons as rule 2. Now, I of course have said that many spells are discovered simply by stumbling upon the glitch, a glitch in action one day and then being able to replicate it. But there also is a sort of science to it, a study of magic, if you will. If you are living in a video game world, let's say, and are beginning to grasp the shape of the code that governs your reality, you also would be better suited for predicting glitches. So, our scholars of magic usually concern themselves with the fickle wording of physics and reality, the grammar of the script of reality, the grammar of magic, if you will, or the rules of magic continue. Thank you so much for watching. I hope you enjoyed, and tune in for the next episode of Just North of Knowwhere, the Grammar of Magic, wherein I explain the magic system that I've developed, and we get into the different types of casters. It'll be fun and interesting, I hope. Before you go, though, one final note. The drawings that I had running in the background usually serve to enunciate what I am currently monologuing on, in order to drive home a point. The point I was trying to illustrate in my second page of drawing, I feel needs to be elaborated on further before moving on. Simply, I drew a typical depiction of magical healing, and then contrasted it with two different angles of my version of magical healing, with the end goal of showing how my rules of magic serve to restrict me and then, in turn, help me create much more vivid, vibrant, and distinct spells. Should we call them spells? Yeah, probably. Once again, thank you. I hope you found something in this interesting. And remember, you have to keep living that good life, whatever it may be. Farewell.